Hey guys, anybody online? What's up, folks? I'm getting on a few minutes early today. You can hear me, if you can see me. I'll wait and see if people show up in the chat. Yeah, Caveman, what's up? You're first. Joe, what's going on? I'm about a half an hour early today, but not because I gotta get off of here any particular time or anything like that. I've been waking up early actually. Cheers, good morning. It's weirdest jet lag I got going on. I'm like, I've been back for at least, I don't know, 10 or 12 days or something, and I'm still tripping with the time. Hi from Sweden. What's up, Sweden? How's everybody? And the Brazilians. What's up, Brazilians? I love Brazilians too. Man, you guys can play guitar like nobody else. Between Mateus and Larry. Denmark. And lots of other great, man, the music in Brazil and the musicians from Brazil are just, I don't know what is going on down there, but I guess you guys just love music. What's up? And so you practice a lot. It's like passionate about art. It's cool. Edmonton, Alberta, my hometown, from Jason Hunt. What's up? And Caveman wants to know about Dave and Soldano's theft. Well, okay, so what you're talking about is the fact that a dual rectifier is exactly the same as a Soldano SLO in the preamp. That's actually true. I've known that for a long time, like since the 90s I've known that, that basically copped the SLO. But the power section's different, so the amp doesn't sound the same. You know, front end's the same, back end's not. I had heard that like back in the 90s for sure, so they did do that. It sucks, you know, kind of, but what are you going to do, you know? It's like Marshalls, you know. They're everywhere too, or you know, boutique tube screamers, whatever. If you can't patent something, you kind of have to build a better mousetrap, maybe as far as it's not just the amplifier or the pedal or the guitar or whatever. You have to offer like the best customer service, maybe, and you know, accessibility to the product, right? Through dealers, and you know, make it easy to get, and you know, it's like all the aspects, I think, when you manufacture something these days have to kind of coalesce in order to have a successful product. It's not just about the thing, because people are going to steal what you do. It's just true, you know. I mean, hey, I've seen people copy basically the format that I do in my YouTube demos, down to almost what I say. Hi, it's so-and-so, and welcome to my studio, or whatever, you know, like whatever I would say. And it's like, so you kind of have to you know, you have to be smart about everything that you do and combine it all into a package that Soldano is he's a great guy, and he came up with an amazing amplifier, but he was a small amplifier company for sure. You know, Mesa, yeah, I guess they kind of ripped off his design and then like ran with it or whatever. He still had a lot of devotees though, right? I mean, like everybody respects that amplifier. And you know, he had a lot of great endorsers. Everybody from Gary Moore to Warren Haynes. It was the amp that took Van Halen away from Marshalls. You know, so everybody gives Mike credit, I think. And you know, it would have been nice if maybe he could have reaped some of the success, shall we say, that Mesa had throughout the '90s. But that amplifier took over and became the new metal, you know, amp of choice, right? So, but I think Mike did okay too. You know, it's just like, I mean. Yeah, I don't know what the right thing is, but I think from a business perspective, you just have to be ready to be able to deliver, you know, on all fronts, and then because people are going to copy what you do. So that's kind of my take on it. Okay, I've gotten way back in the comments, so I'm going to move on. Hi from Toronto and London. What's up? And Italy. The Netherlands, so rad. People from all over the place. Austin, Texas. Love Austin. Haven't been there for a while. T-Dot, another one from Toronto. Hope to get up there soon to do a clinic. Do I speak relatively fluent Japanese? No, skoshi nashimasu. I speak a little bit, and I'm a student. I got to find a school in LA. I want to go to a school because if I'm going back there, I want to be able to you know, be able to take advantage of the time I spend there. And it's also just really fun when you pick up new words and new phrases and you say them. It's cool. I enjoy it. Actually, I love learning Japanese. But no, I'm not fluent. I can order food and ask where things are and what direction is something, and you know, ask certain things. And I can understand more than I used to be able to. Like when people are having a deep conversation about something, if I listen really hard, I pick out more words than I've been able to in the last few years, and that's helpful. You know, it's cool. It feels good, like when it's like, I think I know what they're talking about. It's cool. Best pedal platform amps: Sir PT100, Hedgehog, or Bella. Actually, they're all great, and the reason is because you've got switchable bright. They've all got great clean channels, a little bit different, but they've got options as far as switching the bright in, so you can really fine-tune them to pedals and fine-tune the clean sound. But I've gotten, they all have stellar clean sounds, because John doesn't mess around with clean sounds. He loves clean, sparkly, nice, full, warm but clear, you know, American tube amp sounds, and he's really, really good at that thing. And so all his amps, consequently, have really, really nice, tunable, and stellar-sounding clean channels. So they all work really good with pedals, I find. The PT100 is like, honestly, I've got a bunch of different amps, but when I do pedal demos, I just keep coming back to the PT100 clean channel. It just sounds great with pedals. It does, and it's easy. I know it because I've used it now for like 10 years, and it's an awesome pedal platform. Just the channel one on the amp really is. It was one of my, honestly, without, you know, I sound like I'm just, you know, whatever, shilling for my own amp, but it honestly is, like, not that I've tried like a gazillion other clean channels of every amp out there, but, you know, the amps that I've tried, it's pretty stellar with pedals. Puerto Rico, what's going on down there? You guys have had that's John from Puerto Rico. You guys have had a tough go, man. What's going on with power in Puerto Rico? I love Puerto Rico, by the way. I spent a lot of time there. I haven't been there for a long time, but 2003 through 2005, I was there a lot with Draco Rosa, and I got a real you know, soft spot for that place. Fond memories of Puerto Rico. So I'd love to go back, and I'm sorry that you've had such a rough go. And Guatemala, what's up? Some folks from all over the place. It's awesome. In the Netherlands. Let's see here. Their Tone Talk. Thanks for joining the chat. Going to Madrid, man. I missed that place too. That's the last time I was in Madrid, was with Draco. A long time ago. I miss that town. Beautiful city. And London, Spain, the UK. Very cool. Let's see. Good question here from Jelloman. Any chance I'll make the tracks that I record for demos available for download? Well, I'm actually sort of doing that for my record. So the record that's coming out soon is basically, you know, I sort of mined the old demos and listened. Not all of them. There's some tunes on there that are actually the single that's no, that's not true. The single that's actually coming out in 2 weeks was a demo. So a lot of the songs started from demos, because I thought, well, I've got like hundreds of these, what are essentially demos, video demos for pedals, but also sort of demos of songs. So I went back and picked out some of my favorites. But there's going to be a few tracks on there that are completely new. But yeah, most of the time, for most of the tunes on there, I went back and picked ones I liked and then expanded upon them, like a lot. So, you know, because they'd be anywhere from a minute to a minute and a half long. So I had to write new sections, figure out how to extend things, and sometimes be like, oh, well, I obviously need a melody on top of this part. It's not quite fully fleshed out. So I wrote a lot, you know, starting with the old ideas as sort of the bare bones things, and then expanded. Yeah. And, oh, Greece. What's up? Love that place, too. And Poland. God, it's amazing. Love this situation. You guys from all over the place. So rad. How was the Japanese tour? Well, it was good. It wasn't really a tour. It was really just a couple shows down in Tiyoshi's hometown, Kagoshima. I know I go there for a long time, but it's because we rehearse a lot. So we go there and rehearse quite a bit, and then finally, you know, did a couple gigs right at the end. It was great. Really fun. Hard work. We worked a lot, but okay. Let's see here. Caveman says they seem so bitter about it. referring to the Mesa Soldano thing. I don't know if they're just, they're just kind of being realistic about it. I don't know if it's bitter or just kind of like stating, that's what happened. And it's unfortunate there's not a better solution, I guess, to, I mean, you don't have a lot of recourse when it's, it's just a circuit. The amps are relatively simple, especially if they're like point to point, you can kind of get in there and if you don't know what you're doing. So, Scott says, so is the PV5150. There's no extra stages. I don't think that's true, Scott. I'm pretty sure there's an extra, the PV5150 has an extra gain stage, if not two, in the front end. That's why there's more preamp tubes in it. I'm not an amp guy, but I'm pretty sure about that. You'd have to ask Friedman to confirm, but he knows it for sure, inside and out. They're close, though. Like, the 5150 is not that different. It's definitely where they started. James Brown designed that amp. He was a great amp designer. He's a smart, not the James Brown, but the other James Brown, the amp designer James Brown. We got Argentina. What's up, Argentina? Tom Gleason says, any particular reason I opt for a pedal board system based over a rack? Purely for ease of transportation? Yes, that's exactly what it is, because I can literally put that pedal board in the back of my car. It's easy to carry on my own. And it's just one piece then. I used to do the rack thing, like even when I had a small rack, like a 6-space and a small pedal board, it's still two things to carry and more to set up. And but I liked the rack thing. It's cool. It's just more stuff. And I quickly got comfortable just using just a pedal board based. Once these new pedals came out, like from Strymon really kind of spearheaded the whole thing. And all of a sudden you kind of had rack quality effects in pedals. And then, Boss has now followed suit, and Eventide H9, all these great products that are basically like, for all intents and purposes, rack line level sounding quality effects in pedals. Once those came out, it's like, well, now you can put it all on the board, and kind of like, it's, it's just easy. Less stuff. My goal is to be able to put the whole rig in the back of my car, like in the trunk. A guitar, cabinet, head, pedal board, bag of cables or whatever, go, And if I can do that, and it's basically just about the same rig that I would tour with on a big gig, that's what makes me happy. Let's see. Do I normally set my SUR reactive load, this is from Joe, at the 12 o'clock position, or do I tend to crank it higher or lower depending on the situation? It really depends on the wattage of your amplifier. For lower wattage amps, like 10, 15, 20 watt amps, you'll be turning it up a bit more, but for the PT100, it's generally around 9 to 10 o'clock. The knob's lower to line out. That's what I've found. And that gives me plenty of level to get into my, either into a DI or into a mic pre. Or, line input, sorry, for the UA interface. First Beatles question. Paul's, Helter Skelter was Paul's answer to The Who. Is that true? I didn't know that. That's cool. I think your birthday is raunchier. What's the raunchiest Beatles song? I'm going to go with Helter Skelter, but maybe you're right. I mean, they're up to Helter Skelter. That's the gnarliest. I mean, you got to keep in mind, when that came out, people actually took the single back to the store and saying, my copy is damaged, because nobody had ever heard a guitar sound like that. That direct distorted into the console thing they did. That's crazy. I mean, it still sounds incredibly raunchy, but, the amazing thing about the Beatles back then is we think about it now and you say, oh, okay, it's great songs and everything and stuff, but you have to, like, I can't imagine what it would be like to hear that music then for the first time, because nobody was doing that up till then, and they were breaking ground with every single release and doing things that nobody had heard. Up to 1963 or 4, engineers, studio engineers, were actually like in lab coats, like guys wearing white coats, and it was like you didn't, as the artist, touch the microphones. You didn't, you listened to what they said and you recorded the way they wanted you to record. And in George Martin, who's really the fifth Beatle, they had this guy that was willing to let them experiment and do all this crazy stuff, including overloading the crap out of the console for Helter Skelter, and things like that, which was like, that was unheard of, but it was like the Beatles were blowing up huge, and it was like, we'll let these guys do whatever they want, and he was really the you know, the fifth Beatle, George Martin, and I can't imagine what it would have been like to just be hearing, you know, first the Beatles and then of course like Hendrix not too long after. I remember seeing a really awesome show that was it was about it was a, you know, some TV show on the Beatles or movie about the Beatles, and they were showing a studio audience of people that were listening to Sgt. Pepper's when it first came out, and they were asking them after they listened to it what their first impression was, like, what did you think, you know? And there was a couple people that were like, I don't know if I really like it, like, that was weird, you know. And then one guy just like had his mind blown, and he was like, I thought it was amazing. You know, and I think that that would have just been the coolest thing to actually experience that music in the time that it came out, you know. But I have great memories of the 80s too, like, you know, hey, did you hear the new AC/DC record? Like, I firmly, clearly remember when, you know, that stuff was coming out, or 1984, you know, the first time you ever heard, like, whoa, that crazy, like, Hot for Teacher kick drum thing or whatever, or, you know, Prince, you know, Purple Rain. It's like, whoa, that was amazing when that came out, or new records by the Pretenders, or Michael Jackson, or whatever was happening. It was just like, you know, all this incredible music, and, you know, we just took it as like, you know, well, yeah, it's always going to be that way. I mean, I'm not bagging on new. There's lots of good new music too, but it was a special time. Okay, what else? T.O. Bennett says, about to pull the trigger on a Bella head and cabinet. Will your Helix sound okay through that, or will you have to stick with your normal pedal board? Yeah, you can totally use the Helix into... You're asking about specifically the modeled sounds. Use it in 4-cable method, and for that, and just try, you know, using a model. It works. Like, you can put an amp model, don't use a cabinet model obviously, but amp model into just the power section of the Helix, and experiment with it. It's pretty cool. I've done it, like used like AC-15 or, you know, matchless models into the PT-100's return. Smoothie. And so I've got it set up so that I could actually, like, with a few sounds, so that I can have the PT-100 clean, like for instance on the first button of a bank or whatever in the Helix, and then the next button goes to the matchless modeled sound or whatever, and then the third button goes to the PT channel 2, fourth to the PT channel 3, like that. So I'm using a modeled preamp for the one of the sounds to get kind of a, you know, an AC type sound, basically ELA Ford kind of thing going, and it's cool. You just have to spend some time balancing the levels, that's all, so that it's the same as the front end of your amp. It's pretty fun, though. Definitely get a lot of different tones that way. Yeah, try it, like with the distorted, you know, like whatever, Marshall Plexi or whatever, into, you know, 4-cable method. I hadn't thought about actually using it with the Bella like that, but that could be really cool. Definitely works on the PT-100. What else we got here? Dan's saying he tried one of my signature guitars in black and loved it. Would love a gold top hardtail T style. Yeah, that'd be cool. Well, you could order one like that. You know, get like the same specs as my guitar or whatever, but just get a T. That would be a nice guitar. The first one I ever got that's sort of similar to my signature model was the candy apple red, or dark cherry red, I think is what they called it, metallic, with a black back, and all, you know, the mahogany setup and all that stuff, different neck shape and stuff. But it was a T, you know, double humbucker T, and I used to play it with Cornell and stuff, and see it in videos and things from about 2009. There's some stuff with me using that guitar. It's a great guitar. Yeah. Do I have any advice for releasing an album single as a new band or artist, recording, label, and marketing? Well, I don't really know what I'm doing these days. I don't know if anybody does. It's like, you know, you can just reach so many people these days, obviously, through what I'm doing right now, YouTube or Instagram. You know, you just have to build your social media. And I would say as an independent artist, the kind of the thing that I hate streaming, but I use it too, like everybody. But I hate it for independent artists because it just doesn't pay. But it's a terrible thing for as far as artists, and, you know, it sucks. But I would say that it's, you know, put out a few songs if you're going to put out a record to Spotify and to Apple Music and stuff like that for streaming, and then leave the rest of it just, you know, you can only get it on iTunes and Amazon and stuff like that. That's the way I would do it. So it's like people want to hear the whole record, they can go buy it. You know, I think as an independent artist, that's important. If you're not with a label and you're not signing some 360 deal and signing half your life away or whatever, going to get at least some income coming in that way, you kind of have to do it that way. And people should support that, I think. Okay, let's see. Any tips for setting low action on a Strat? Well, Strats can be tough because sometimes the neck angle, no matter how low you seem to get the saddles and stuff, it seems like it's still high up in the upper register, and if that's true, you got to shim it. Kind of have to. So get a little bit of angle going on the neck. So you can use a piece of business card, just cut like a thin rectangular strip of business card and put it in the neck pocket, right at the end of the pocket. Slant the neck up a little bit and then start readjusting everything else. Usually one business card works and like one piece is enough. I just did that to my telly the other day. What else? You know, depending on the radius of the Strat, if it's a vintage radius, 7.5, it can be more difficult to get, especially the E and the B string lower. You kind of have to leave them up a little high so that they don't fret out when you're doing whole step bends, or certainly like, you know, 3-fret kind of bends. Yeah, so just those tips are good. Shimming, you know, the biggest thing with action, especially if you notice your action changing, it seems like it's high all of a sudden, that's because the neck's bowed, because nothing else has changed on the guitar, right? The only thing that can happen is the neck shifting. So check your truss rod, learn how to do good truss rod adjustment. I adjust my truss rods so that the neck is almost straight with just a little bit of relief, because I'm a wuss. That's the way I like them. Some people can deal with more relief. Favorite Canadian guitarist? Well, I'm going to have to go with favorite Canadian guitarist. I'm going to go with Lifeson. You know, he's done so much stuff. It's like the body of work is impressive, and he's such a stylist. You know, Ian Thornley. He's my favorite current Canadian guitarist that's out doing a bunch of stuff. He's incredible. One of my favorite guitar players, for sure, for sure. Did I play a Bogner Ecstasy back in the day? Yes, I did. I used to have an Ecstasy 100B, I believe it was, or 101B. I can't remember. Maybe it was a 101B. It was good. I liked the blue channel. The problem I had with the Ecstasy is that it sounded a little polite to me. It was very refined and felt good and stuff, but it sounded, when compared to like a real Marshall Plexi or something like that, it was sort of tame. You know what I mean? The high end and stuff. But that's part of the Bogner sound. It's more the low mid kind of thing. And so some people bond with that. I'm a little bit more a fan of I would probably like his Helios amp, you know, more than the kind of the Ecstasy voicing. Because I just like a little bit more like teeth. Let's see. Will Sir ever make a more affordable guitar? Well, you know, the Pro Series, man. I mean, it's hard to make a guitar in America. Like, if you look at the price of a Pro Series compared to what Fender's doing, you know, if we're talking about made in America, right? Because you just can't make stuff in America anymore for much less. I mean, they got that guitar down to, what was it, $19.95 or whatever. And it's like, if you look at what Fender's, nobody's offering American-made guitars for less, really, you know. You know, Godin does good stuff and they're building in Canada, which is every bit as good as anything made in America, as far as I'm concerned. Go Canada. And they somehow managed to do it for really reasonable, you know, I don't know if that's like maybe just the business climate or whatever, maybe in Quebec allows them to produce guitars, not charge quite as much. But if, you know, the price that the Pro Series came in at was exceptional, I thought. So you got to look at going to produce things in other countries, basically. They did that for a little while doing the Rasmus thing, you know, which I mean, to be honest, when they asked me about that, they said, what do you think about this? You know, they handed me a guitar one day. This is a long time ago. They handed me a guitar. I picked it up. I played it. It looked like a Sir, but it didn't have anything on the headstock. And I played it, and I thought, it's great. It was a modern, I think. And I was playing it and going, yeah, it's good. What is it? And they said it was made overseas. And that was when they were looking at starting to do the Rasmus thing. And I was like, it's great. The guitar was great. You couldn't really distinguish that it wasn't made in their factory. I was like, it's just not a good idea, I don't think, for, you know, for Sir to go that route. And that was my opinion. I told them that, and they went and did it, and they did it for a couple of years, and then they decided it wasn't for them. So for other reasons, it can be difficult. It's difficult with, quality control. I mean, for somebody, especially like John, who's obsessed with things being just, they got to be perfect for him. They were spending a lot of time, setting everything up and fixing little mistakes and things like that when the guitars would come over. So nothing went out of their factory that wasn't perfect, but it was difficult. And they said, this is just too, we're just going to try and make the best guitars we can in our factory. It's better. And that's my memory of the way that went down. But, I would look elsewhere for less expensive guitars. If that's what you really want, Fender does nice stuff in Mexico. It's like, there's other ways to go. I would prefer that Sir just my opinion as a fan of their brand and stuff like that. I don't work for the company technically, it's like, but as a fan of their brand, I think they should just make things in America and make the best guitars they possibly can. And I don't really think that they need to make anything less than a Pro Series. I was amazed that they were able to make those guitars. They're as good as they were for the price that they were. And you can probably pick up a pre-owned one for, there's got to be used Pro Series out there for what, 13, 14, 1500 bucks probably. I bought my Classic. This is a long time ago, but I bought my Classic for 1500 off the Gear page. So there's going to be deals out there if you want to find one. How many guitars is too many guitars? I'm trying to come up with a crafty, funny answer, but I can't. There can never be too many. That's just the truth. Okay, backing up in the chat here, because I missed, do I know Ian Thornley? I do know him well. Yeah, Ian and I became friends, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, around 2013. Yeah, and he's an awesome dude, and what a guitar player. That's from Toby. If you go online and you search on YouTube for Ian Thornley, Sir NAMM party. It's the 2014 NAMM. You can see me and Ian playing together, doing Blown Wide Open and Control and a few other songs. We did about 4 or 5 tunes together. And there's a nice video that I actually mixed the audio for that came out, and that was just a blast. It was so much fun doing that gig with him. Let's see here. One of my favorite. Oh, sorry. I'm going to back up a little bit more. Sorry. God, it's really difficult here to move around in the chat. Sorry, I'm trying to. Well, it won't let me go back any further than a certain point, so I'm just going to roll with it from where it is. Sorry if I missed some of your questions. I know it goes up higher, but it won't go any higher for me. Okay, somebody's saying they enjoy my guest spots on Tone Talk. We have such a good time doing that. It's been really fun. The episode with George Pahone, yeah, that was a fun one. That was where Dave got super drunk. He hadn't eaten all day. At one point, me and George were talking about something, and we realized we hadn't heard from Dave for a while. And then we were like, "Dave, are you still there?" And he just sort of mumbled, and we were like, "Okay, we better call it quits." Can I recommend a good non-tube screamer type overdrive for use with a mid-heavy amp like a Marshall? Well, if you don't want more mids, I was gonna say any Klon type is good, but if you don't want more mids, Klon sort of push mids. I don't know. Maybe a full drive with the flat mids or something. If you don't want more mids, you need something that you can tune the mids on. That could be a good option, I guess. Like a full drive. Yeah, that's a flat mids thing. Full tone. A lot of overdrive pedals push mids. What else we got here? Just bought a Sir Bella Reverb head and cab, and the transformer hums in the reverb channel. You might want to ask John about, you should hit them up and ask them about the tube, if there's a hum in the amp. could be because there's a tube effects loop in it, and probably tube-driven reverb stuff. So you might want to ask them if there's a tube that you can try replacing to see if you could cut down on the noise. I know John always recommends putting in a JJ in a spot where if there's any kind of noise issues, because they hum less and they have less noise. Where in Edmonton did I go to high school? I went to Ainley. Ainley. Yep. So sad. Regrettably, kind of. I wish I'd gone to Skona, which was the other school I could have gone to in my hood. I didn't have a great high school education going to Ainley, I felt like. Kind of tuned out, and I felt like the school was too big for the amount of students that were in it. And I think I would have been probably academically done better had I gone to Skona. Smaller school, like half the size, if not less. And yeah, but I had a good time there. It's just like kind of like high school was like a, you know, I don't remember learning anything in that school, I'll put it that way. But my junior high was great. Why don't modeling amps model crate amps? Well, that's a good question. Not really. It's not actually really a good question. Nobody even talks about crate amps anymore. It's like one of those things people just forgot. Did anybody use crate amps? I think Poison did. Sammy Hagar, right? Didn't you have a signature crate amp? Music Therapy says, thinking about getting a torpedo captor for my little studio in my apartment. Where do you get your IRs, and is there some of mine available? There's none of mine available right now. Hey, it's Leo from Frogleap. What's up? Dude, you got to hit me up so we can hang out at NAMM for sure. I'll see you there. Let's get together. Send me a, I don't know. I don't even know if you have my, oh, you have my email. Hit me up on email, and let's work that out. Love to see you. Leo's my hero, by the way. He wins the music business. He makes those great videos. Frogleap Studios, if you haven't seen it, go to Frogleap Studios on YouTube and watch Leo's videos because they're amazing. He's kind of a genius. And a great guy. Okay, sorry. I got distracted. Torpedo Captor. Where do I get my IRs? I recommend the Celestion IRs. Owen hammers are good too. There's all kinds of different, sort of different third-party sort of vendors out there for IRs these days. But the Celestion ones, they are so good. They really are. They just sound terrific. And the mixes they make are of like all their mics together. So it's like usually like a Royer and a 57 and a 421. Just, you can use the all mix. High gain all mix. You'll see what I mean if you get them. But I just use those all the time. I don't even really, I just use their mixes of, well, I want a 412 greenback, and I'll just grab the all mix of all the mics on that cabinet. And that sounds great. Or 212 open back, blue. Always sounds terrific. Okay. All right. How old am I? I'm not going to tell you that. How old do you think I am? Ancient. Fort McMurray. What's up, Fort McMurray? Hope you guys are doing good up there. We had a tough go a while ago, a couple years ago now. Big fires up there. It was really rough in Fort McMurray for a lot of people. Which guitarist was more influential for me, Kim, Thale, or Morello? I think they're both great. I wouldn't say one over the other. Both are stylists, and you can tell them when you hear them. You know when it's Tom Morello, the song comes on, it just sounds like him. And Kim's style was so unique. Soundgarden wouldn't have sounded like Soundgarden without Kim. It just wouldn't have been the same. He's hard to play like. Because I had to learn a bunch of the stuff, and to be honest, it's like the solos were like his kind of crazy, phrasing and stuff like that was unique to him, and it's like he's a difficult guy to caught. Chris doesn't get enough credit maybe sometimes for the guitar that he played in Soundgarden. 'Cause a lot of times you don't know if it's Kim or Chris, and you might think it's Kim, and it's actually Chris. He played a lot of guitar on those records, I do believe. But that's not taking anything away from Kim. Kim's great. and a sweet guy. In fact, Kim Thale is the dude is just a nice person. Really kind of like, almost like, in my experience anyway, meeting him, like just really kind, just kind of remembers your name. You know, I met him once in 2009, and then I saw him 3 or 4 years later backstage at a Soundgarden show, and he remembered my name. He came up to me and said, "Pete, you know, how you doing?" or whatever. And I was like, "Wow, that's cool." You know, that he would, you know, why would he remember me? You know, but he did, and so that was really cool. Really nice dude. Let's see. Tell us how you use other amps like the Concord and Divided by 13. Well, I used to use them. So I used to use like multiple amps and then an AB. So I would have an AB box, and like the Divided by 13 you're asking about, I mainly use an FTR 37 or a RSA 31, I guess it is, the one that I have, the Voxy one. And I would use those like a clean amp, and sometimes, much like I use the clean channel on the PT100 now, and kind of hit them with pedals and stuff. And then I would AB over to something like the Concord, the Comet, and it was more like, sort of like, you know, like a 50-watt Marshall sort of vibe. It's its own thing, but so it would kind of be the classic sort of clean, dirty amp AB situation. So that's kind of how I use them. And I would usually have an attenuator of some sort on each amp, down one click, something like that. So that's how I would use them live. So it's still cooking and pretty loud, but yeah, I used various different sort of AB boxes and stuff to go between them. You should come to Reykjavik. I would love to go to Reykjavik again. That's a great place. Iceland. I was there in 2008, I think. Or was it 2007? Maybe late 2007. I had some killer pictures from a gig we played there in Reykjavik with Cornell. So we went to so many places with Chris. I mean, like, yeah, Iceland and Tromsø, Norway, and like all the way down to Chile, and like, you know, he loved touring. It was great, and like going like crazy places, like, you know, all over the map. And Reykjavik was like, blew me away because it just culturally it was like, I don't know, everybody's really smart, and the food's great, and it's like fashion forward kind of place, and like there's a like it was like really impressive, and it looks like no other place on earth. The closest place, of course, probably that I was ever in that looked kind of like Iceland is the Big Island of Hawaii, because it's so volcanic and it's so young, and still kind of, you know, developing. But I'd never been to a place like that. It looks all volcanic, and it was really interesting. So Reykjavik, good memories. What's the best dumble in a box pedal? I don't know, honestly, because I don't really have a great. I love the Dumbleoid pedal. It's a really good sounding pedal, but I don't have a great, like, and I know all Dumbles sound different. I've played a few of them now. I think of them as great big kind of like Fenders on steroids, most of the ones I played, but I don't have some magic, you know, perspective on the Dumble sound, and I don't know that there is one, because I think they vary as much as, say, a Marshall JTM 45 to like a later metal panel super lead. I think there's as much variance in the Dumbles there, so it's hard to answer, you know. I did like the Zen Drive pedal, the original Zen Drive, or Media, or whatever they were called. That's the sound that, so if you listen to my song 10th Street, the solo on 10th Street is my 335 through a Zen Drive in my old basement. And it's kind of this, you know, singing, sophisticated, for lack of a better term, solo tone. And I love the sound that I got on that tune. Actually, I should kind of revisit that tone, making me think, like, for maybe something on my new record. But yeah, try to. Dumbleoid's great, and the Zen Drive. And am I a dog lover? What's my favorite breed? My family always had bulldogs, English bulldogs. So we had a couple when I was sort of growing up, and so I've got a soft spot for English bulldogs. I love dogs. I haven't had a pet for a long time, and the reason is because I tour and I live alone, so it's like it'd be not fair and difficult for me to leave, and you know. But at some point, I hope to. Obviously, again, I sort of love dogs and cats equally, actually. Yeah. Hello from Edmonton. More people in Edmonton. That's awesome. Had a good time up there doing the clinics recently. Calgary and Edmonton. I should release some jam tracks. Well, I have one out, Brett. There's one I did on. It's on. You get it at iTunes and stuff like that. If you search, it's called Space Charged. So it's in the key of E, and it's fun to jam over. But I'm gonna put out more. Definitely. Okay, demo the Triple Crown 100. I haven't played that amp. I don't really do demos of amps anymore because I've got my own signature amp, so it's just something that feels like a conflict of interest. So I stick to pedals and other kinds of videos, but I have been wondering about that Triple Crown amp. I would like to play it just for market research. What's my favorite amp after the PT100? Well, I just bond with the Marshall thing. You know, I love a great sounding Marshall, like early ones generally. The kind of the 60s through early 70s are my favorites. So that always feels like home. As far as newer amps go, I love, like I've got my Comet and the Concorde, which is incredible. And my Divided by 13s were great. I love ACs too, man. I mean, AC30 is the other kind of thing that I don't. That's the one thing I will say, like, you're not going to get out of the PT100 is an AC30 because it's such a different thing, that it's its own universe. But a good AC30 or AC30 style amp, like some of the Matchlesses or Divided by 13s, it's a really wonderful guitar sound. Have I ever played in Buenos Aires? Yeah, that's from Mike. There's some videos, if you Google Chris Cornell, Buenos Aires, Argentina, 2007, there's a bunch of videos of like a big show that we did down there. Killer crowd. Yeah, South America is the best crowds in the world, I think. I mean, I love the Japanese audiences now too, but it's a different thing. South America, you know, people down there are just, it's like the 70s or something. It's like they're just passionate about art and music. And not jaded, like they're like fans, you know, like real fans, and totally into it, and are stoked when you make it down there because it's a long way to go. And I think when I played there with Cornell, it was the first time he'd ever been there. He'd never been there with Soundgarden or Audioslave. So when we showed up in Chile and Argentina, it was the first time, if you were a fan of his, that you got to see him live. So the crowds were bonkers. It was some of the best gigs I've ever done in my life, for sure. What's the hardest part of a song that I've ever learned? The first thing that came to mind is the 20th Century Schizoid Man, or 21st Century, is it 20th or 21st Century Schizoid? 21st Century Schizoid Man, the Ken Crimson song. I can't remember exactly how it goes now, but it's that crazy breakdown section in the middle, and we played it with, I did it like 5 years ago with Steve Stevens at NAMM, and that was bonkers, like that, getting that down. I don't know if that's the hardest thing I've ever learned, but it was pretty hard. It was, as a, you know, a part of a song to actually perform with a band, it was pretty crazy. Or something like that, you know. Can't remember exactly how it goes, but it's just bonkers. Like, really, really cool though. Rewarding when you play it through and you actually get it, like with drums and everything. Okay. Let's see here. Where am I now? I'm home in LA. You want to be flexible, mono and stereo out of a Boss MD500. This is from Stefan. Can you sum the stereo mode later somewhere else to mono? Yeah, probably with like varying degrees of success. Can you just use the mono out on the MD500? You know, like if I want to run mono with my pedal board, I just pull all the cables from the stereo path. If that makes sense. So I've got 3 pedals right now in the stereo path, H9, DD500, and then a second H9. So going into the first H9, that's the send from my effects loop, and it's going into the input, and coming out of that first H9, that's where I split the stereo for the first time. So it's, you know, left and right out. So I'll just pull the right output out of that pedal, and then I'll pull the right in and out of the DD500, and just leave the cables dangling there on the board, you know. And then out of the last H9 as well, just pull the stereo path. And now you've just got all the left paths, which is typically the kind of the mono thing, and then you're cool. So that's what I would do. Will plugins ever rival analog recording gear? Man, I got to tell you, I mean, that's from Carrie. The UA plugins, a lot of people, I mean, I've talked to a lot of my friends, and it's like we have conversations about this stuff where it's like there's a lot of people that are like, man, this maybe sounds as good as a lot of the analog hardware I've used. Maybe not every, like, so example, like LA2A, UA compressor model. You'll try it, and then guys that have real ones, if they beat them with the real LA2As, and be like, well, I have two of them, and it sounds actually better than this one, but maybe not quite as good as this one, but it's right in there. I did a lot of the vocals on my new record through a 1073 style pre and a distressor compressor. Sorry, not on my record. It's on Holly Henderson's record is what I meant. The record, it's not my record. What was I thinking? It's not my record. It's Holly's record. So I was cutting her vocals through 1073 pre and a distressor compressor, and then we did one last song recently, and I did the vocals just plugged. I just wanted to try it, so I plugged right into my UA interface and used the pre with the model 1073, and put a couple, I think, an 1176 and an LA2A kind of in series after that, and the vocals. I was like, this sounds awesome. Like, why don't I just do this for the whole thing? Because it's just easy, right? The plugins in there. Once you get a great sound on her, you can store that console preset. It sounds great. I don't know. I mean, in many ways, I think, as far as the recording stuff goes, simple mic pre's, compressors, and stuff like that, the plugins are pretty there. Can artists in Nashville book me for sessions? Sure. I mean, or you could send me tracks, and I can play on things and send you back. I do that a lot, where people email me tracks, and I'll do it in my studio, and it's how a lot of people like to work these days, because it's just cheaper. Yeah, what's in my smoothie? Too much sugar, really. It's like strawberries and a banana and blueberries and almond milk and egg white protein powder. Trying to cut way back on sugar and juice more, but I just bought a new blender, so I've been making smoothies. Yeah, I know all this. It's so interesting. What's my favorite overdrive and modulation pedals? These days for overdrives, I'm really digging the Archers from Rocket, because I really like Klons. They sent me a new Archer that was one that they had made like especially for Jeff Beck, but then they sent it to me, which was really cool, and it sounds amazing. And the Rockaway Archer I love that thing because it's got the graphic on it, just killer. I mean, it's so versatile. Just if I want to shape the tone a little bit, it's like boom, there it is. That graphic, and it works as a great clean boost too, with the graphic set flat and the gain all the way off. Then it's like a Klon with no tone stack or no treble knob or whatever. So it's just really versatile. Great overdrive. Modulation. I mean, I love my Mobius. To be honest, it's just it's like the Swiss Army knife of modulation pedals. It works great for me. And then beyond that, I use modulated delay a lot. So right now it's the DD500 on my board that I'm doing that with. So yeah, modulated delay sort of stays out of the way. It's not as overtly chorused. But I don't mind chorus these days, actually. It's going to come back. Okay. Let's see, moving along. What do I think? Which type of combo amp has the best clean sound? Well, I love the Bella because I have one, but I mean, there's lots of good, vintage, Fender from Super Reverb to, a nice old deluxe. They can just sound amazing, or a Princeton Reverb for a small amp. I love the cleans that you get out of those amps. And then there's the Vox thing. So if you consider that, I can get terrific sounding clean sounds out of my little hand-wired AC-15 on the normal channel into the low gain input, and you just kind of set the volume on 2 or 3. Maybe add a bit of compression. Sounds great, but it's more that Vox thing. Those are the two cleans to me, kind of, is you got your American clean, and then you got your Voxy cleans. Belland says he loves James Brown amp tweaker pedals. Yeah, those are good pedals, and he's a He's a good designer. Why Friedman is my favorite power supply, says Aaron. Well, Dave built my new board, and he said, try my power supplies. And I said, sure I will, because they make good stuff. So, I just took that board to Japan, and it was, I beat it up it was a lot of rehearsals, wasn't a lot of gigs, but I mean, long days, like the board was on like 10 hours a day, every day, flawless. So it's working out great for me with those power supplies on it. Didn't have a single hiccup out of that board, like no weird noise, ground business, or anything going wrong. It just worked perfect. So I'm stoked. What do I have on my pedal board? Well, that's from Fubar Guitar. There's a couple videos out on it now. I'm going to be making a third one. I might start on that today, actually. I'm going to make one more video for the pedal boards. Yeah, check out the recent videos on my channel, which kind of detail everything that's on there. But I'm going to get more into it, like every single pedal. And, I guess Sir's online. Where are you, Sir? I didn't see you. Let me see. John Sir is in the chat. Where are you, John? Let's see your comment. Top 5 desert island albums. That's a good one. Oh, Dark Side of the Moon, Sgt. Pepper's, Van Halen 1. Here's an odd one. Beck, Morning Phase. One of my favorite records of all time. I love that record. God, it's just such a beautiful sounding record. That's 4. I'll try and think of another one. If you guys haven't heard Morning Phase, it's got to be one of the most gorgeous sounding records of all time. It really is up there with Brian Wilson level. It's just such a beautiful record with great songs. Beck's a genius. Jeff Beck, but the other Beck is who I'm talking about. Is it sacrilegious to put a modern bridge on your Sir Classic? I don't think so. Ask John. What do you think, John? Whatever works for you, man. I mean, recently I put I had John, we were experimenting with bridges. He's going to get mad at me for even bringing this up, but put an old style Floyd with no fine tuners on one of my classics because I just wanted to try it. For a few reasons, it's not a thing that they can offer right now. But with some modifications and stuff, that's the problem. It works well. So hopefully, there'll be something down the road on that with a similar sort of. I find that you don't really need the lock nut if you've got locking bridge saddles and locking tuners, and then you got a real slippery nut on the guitar, and if the bridge is just right, it stays in tune incredibly well, like nothing else. How to amplify at home on low volume. Deluxe Reverb hits a sweet spot on 4 or 5, but it's too hard on the ears at home. Would I use volume on 1 with the OD pedal or attenuator or something else? Well, there's a number of different ways to go about it. It's tough, I have one of those little Marshall 1 watts here. That works well with the little attenuator switched in. It sounds great at like TV volume. But the question is like, it's like, can you get that? Like, you might have the sound of the amplifier. Like, so let's say you use an attenuator, right? Or maybe like the fret thing, the power station or whatever. Would you still dig the tone if you weren't driving the speaker? So like the amp can kind of get in the zone, but if it's down at like TV volume, is it going to, maybe part of what you like is the way the room's interacting with the amp when you turn it up a little bit. And it's like, and you're getting maybe a little bit of feedback and stuff. Is it going to have the same? It's a conundrum, I guess. But there's a lot of options out there now as far as attenuation and sort of load reamp boxes and all kinds of stuff, which is a pretty good way to go. Where's John? There you are. John, whose Danish cousin are you? Jared Frost saying, hey, Tone Talk, happy Sunday. Scott saying, okay, Scott's question, when running an IR, do I need to have a power amp sim too? Not if you're using your amplifier with a load box. So if you've got an amp head or combo or something like that, you're running the amplifier, the speaker out into a good reactive load box, and you're taking the line out of that and going into your recording interface, then you're using an IR, you're getting the power section of the amp, you know, in that line level raw signal. So you don't need a power amp. Then it would be actually probably detrimental. Power amp sim of some sort. But if you're using like a preamp, like a, you know, some sort of pedal or you know, guitar preamp, like you know, a rack mount preamp or something like that, it might be beneficial to figure out a way to simulate the a power amp into the equation if you're wanting to add an IR to it. What's a PT100? It's my signature Sur amplifier. 100 watt Pete Thorn amp that we've had out for a while now. Somebody's asking about my switching from the Timeline to the DD500. What do I think of the DD500? It's great. I really like the DD500. The Timeline's great too. I mean, it's a terrific sounding delay. I just wanted to try something different because it's like I've used the Timeline for 7 years, and I'm a big fan of delay. It's like, well, it's like variety is the spice of life. Try something else. So I put the DD on there, and it's awesome. I'm setting my delays a little brighter than I used to, so that's affecting things as well because they're a little more present for me now. It's a weird thing where it's like I like dark delays a lot with a lot of character and color, but sometimes I think I was setting them too dark because as soon as the band kicks in, you're in the mix. Especially like through a PA, when you walk out and listen, it's like I can't hear the echo, and I know it's loud, like in the the overall mix in the guitar sound. And standing out and playing with the band and full drums and everything, you walk out with wireless, like in an arena or whatever, listening through the PA, and there'd be certain things where I wanted it to sound like Edge kind of delays, like really prominent, and I'd be like, the delay is not loud enough. I can't hear it, but I know it's like mixed up just as loud as the dry guitar. So then I started kind of experimenting with not filtering so much top end out of my delays. So that's affecting the way that I feel about the DD500 too, because I started out with that sort of thing, making presets, making them a little brighter. It's a fine line. Okay, how long can a speaker cable be? A speaker cable can be pretty long. If it's good quality, like real thick gauge speaker cable, you can run a long ass speaker cable. I mean, the cables that I'm running out to where I'm miking in the live area of my studio are probably, they got to be, at least 50 feet. They're probably longer, 60, and routinely in recording studios, they run long cables from the control room all the way out to the, it's not a problem. And I've done experiments too where I've listened, recorded the exact same sound with a really, really long speaker cable and a short speaker cable, and for all intents and purposes, I couldn't hear the difference. I'm using good quality cable. I think you will start to hear the difference if you use, real light gauge, like speaker cable. It's not, but I got beefy stuff and had cables made for my studio. And all the way back to, any of the videos you see where I was miking cabs back in like 2013 or 14 at that other room I had. The older videos I've done, that was long. That was a long, long cable run, going all the way from my heads all the way out to the live room. Yeah, and it works fine. Okay. What else we got here? Looking for more questions. Let's see here. It says here, apparently early on the Beatles had to get written permission to move a mic closer to the bass drum. I believe it. Yeah, this is crazy hearing those early stories about them recording, and the engineers were called engineers because they looked like engineers in coats, lab coats. It's pretty wild. Did I ever run into a guitarist named Nick Perry from bands like Silver Tide, Shine Down in the LA music scene? Isn't it Mick Perry or is it Nick Perry? I do remember that name. I've met him, I think. Have I ever tried a Rev generator? I may have tried that amp, I think, at GitCon, I think, because they had one there, and I was playing through some Rev amps, because that's one of the amps that was in the rooms there at the GitCon dealio in Germany. Okay, just moving down Down the chat here. How do tube amps from the US at 120 volt react to 220 or 240 applications abroad? What's the best way to modify a 120 amp for operation in a 220 volt country? I just use the you know, step down or step up transformers when I'm going overseas. I've never really experimented with like listening. I know people say that, you know, like a European amp that's designed for 240 or whatever, you know, when you bring them to the States, they don't sound as good. I've heard that, like old Marshalls. I don't know if there's truth to that or not. That's a good question for sure, actually. John, what do you think about that if you're still online? You know, the transformers in these amps, the modern amps, you know, or, you know, the old ones, they had like, you know, taps for the different different voltage. I don't really understand it, though. We should ask John about how. If I cross my eyes, do they uncross? No. If I close my left eye, my right one will go straight. You want me to show you? If I open my left one, it then just goes, oh, done again, going to sleep. That's how that works. Let's see. How often do I recrown or refret my frets on guitars? Very rarely. I mean, I should probably do it more, but a lot of my Surs have solid stainless steel. God, I'm tired. I need more coffee. Got solid state frets. Yeah. Stainless steel frets as opposed to nickel silver frets, so they last like kind of forever. There's a couple of my guitars that I could really use. My Strat sitting over here, and I think it needs some love. I just got to convince Sir to take a day off to do my frets because I don't want anyone else to do them. I only want him to do it. Did I ever play a Charvel? Thoughts? Well, I have an old Jackson that was one of my. I still have it. It was one of my first really good guitars, and I got it when I was 16. I have that guitar still. So that was basically, you know, a Charvel Jackson. It's just right after they switched to putting Jackson on the headstock. It's an 85 or 6, I think. It's got the hockey stick headstock. I still wish it had the Strat headstock on it. It's an amazing guitar, by the way. Like super quality guitar. The neck pocket is so tight on the guitar. It's like the neck was made for the body. It's gonna push it in. Still one of my favorite necks. Really wonderful. You know, obviously it's a different company now. It's like, you know, it's owned by Fender and stuff. But I'm not really familiar with the kind of stuff they're doing now. But back in the day, when the Charvels first came to Canada, Mother's Music in Edmonton had them. I remember going down, seeing them for the first time at, you know, in White Avenue music store there, and going in and seeing these Charvel guitars and just being like, oh my god, because everybody was playing them back then, which is like, you know, early '80s, and it was like they were the talk. And everybody was wanted to, you know, well, not an old Charvel, a new Charvel at that point, but they were pretty special. Oh, Solo Frederico says, you saw me playing with Draco in Miami 2 nights in a row, like 12 years ago. Was that the acoustic gig? I think it was where I was playing like a Gibson Chet Atkins steel string with a pedal board, but into a DI, and using overdrive pedals and stuff sometimes. That was a cool tour. And it was about 12 years ago, that's right. That was 2 nights in Miami. Really, really fun gigs, as I remember. Like a club. That's cool that you saw those gigs. It was fun. I was playing with my buddy John Button, and he plays in the Who now, and the other guitar player plays with Jennifer Lopez now, I think. Okay, let's see here. Software I have personal experience with that I can use to slow down songs and learn parts. That's from Gil. Yes. So like phrase trainer sort of software. There's a couple good ones out there. There's one called Riff Station. There's another one called Capo, and the one that I use the most is Transcribe. So it's Seventh String Media, I think, is the company, and Transcribe is the software, and it's brilliant. And I use it all the time. Really like it. Definitely changed the way that I learn songs. Like, you know, using iTunes or something is way, way crappier than using Transcribe. Let's see. Justin says, thank you to Pete and Sir for turning me on to Big Wreck. They are awesome. I agree, man. They were so awesome. Great band. What are some bands or albums that I've been digging lately? I don't know. I got to think about that. I mean, I just brought up one of my favorite records of the last few years, which was Beck, um, Morning Phase. Such an amazing album. Morning Phase was the same band that did the Sea Change album, which is my favorite kind of Beck material, because Beck kind of, you know, if you're into his music, he like shifts gears every now and then. Sometimes it sounds like dance music. Sometimes it sounds like, you know, I don't know, like country. And then other times, you know, he just switches it up because he's an amazing artist that way. But my favorite sound that he does is that kind of moody, beautiful, reverbed out, like lots of vocal harmonies and stuff, and sort of acoustic based and warm. So both the Sea Change and Morning Phase albums are incredible, I think. Thoughts on Al Di Meola? I don't know much about Al Di Meola. Yeah, I don't really. I'm not like an aficionado of his music or anything. I know he's a great alternate picker, but what's the classic album that he did with Paco and John McLaughlin? One Night in San Francisco. That's amazing. What's it called? One Night in San Francisco or something? I haven't heard that forever, but I don't really know that much about him, to tell you the truth. Wondering what the differences are between the Thornbucker versus a P90. Well, it's not a single coil, so you know, it's definitely it's more like you could say what are the differences between a P90 and a PAF. You know, it's going to be very similar. And originally, yeah, they're not worlds apart actually. As far as like they're probably the closest as far as like a single coil to a humbucker. Those are the two that are, you know, original PAFs. They were supposed to sound kind of like P90s, I think. Ooh, I gotta get my actually my computer's gonna shut off in a minute. Power's getting low. So we'll go over here. All right. Joshua says, Emma says, why don't you play for us? I know I should do that. I keep thinking that like every week, and then I haven't set up any way to have a guitar tone going with this setup, because I'm just using the mic into the computer, which is like I'd have to set up my audio interface, I think, and have a way that it would sound good, you know, in order for me to want to do that. Good Lord, what are you drinking? Coffee and a smoothie, fruit smoothie. So yeah, I just don't have a way to do the playing thing unless it was just coming through the mic on the computer, which I guess I could just do that. Too much of a perfectionist. Joshua says, just getting into home recording, has a Sur SL68 that you want to use with a reactive load, running into an Apollo interface, and utilize selection IRs. Do you need a host for the IRs? Yeah, you do. So I use the Mix IR2 from Redwires. Quite like it and recommend it. It's the one that I've really sort of grown accustomed to using, and it's nice because you can blend different IRs within one instance of the plugin. So it's really easy, for instance, to blend a couple different microphones and some room mics in and stuff like that. Some of the IR loaders, it's a little more difficult to do that. And the other thing is it leaves the IRs untruncated. So what that means is they don't get cut off. So if you want to use room mic IRs or have a little bit of, you know, it's like early reflection or reverb tail in your IRs, it'll allow you to do that. So it just sounds really good to me. Am I a trem guy? What is my favorite trem system on a guitar? I am, and you know, to be honest, it's really the Floyd. But I think they do change the sound of the guitar a little bit, and they're a little bit of a pain in the butt. So I think the ultimate trem system has yet to be designed, to tell you the truth. But the feel of the Floyd and the freedom that you have with it to stay in tune and use it is really, really fun. And so that's the tremolo I feel the most comfortable using, I would say. So one of these days, though, there's going to be a better tremolo. Is Sir going to have your model at NAMM? Yes. NAMM's going to be cool this year. It's coming up. It's going to be some good stuff. Going to be some good stuff coming from Sir. So check it out. Can I talk about playing with Draco? So Draco Rosa is an amazing artist that started out his career at a very, very young age, was in Menudo, and he was a huge, massive star by the time he was probably 14, 15, 16 years old in Latin America. And then he went on years later to do a bunch of other things, like was in a band called Maggie's Dream for a while, and then he ended up co-producing and writing Livin' La Vida Loca and She Bangs and a lot of Ricky Martin's biggest hits. So that really put him back on the map, kind of, as far as like now people were really aware of him. And he also did so I think it was just prior to that, or maybe just after that, I can't remember. He did the Vagabundo album, which is sort of seen as the Latin rock Nevermind, maybe. It was a real groundbreaking, cool, like kind of like it's a mixture of Latin influences, but with like alternative rock or something almost, and in a really, really organic, like cool, kind of gritty way. That really, really amazing record, the Vagabundo record. So he put out another record called Mad Love just after that, and that was the one that I got involved with him on. And I played a little bit on the record, and then also did about 2 or 3 years of touring with him after that. So he's an amazing artist. He goes left when you think he's going to go right, and he's not afraid to like to do things differently, or he's an interesting guy to work with. I'll put it to you that way, but I loved working with him, and he's real passionate about art and music. He's an amazing painter, an amazing lyricist, and the dude can dance, and he can play, and he can sing, he can do, it's just like it's like the creativity coming out of him is incredible. So I had a really good time playing with him, and saw a lot of parts of the world that I never would have seen, at Colombia, and it was the first time going there, in Argentina, and all over Spain. I mean, I've been everywhere in Spain playing with him. And the gigs were real cool, like really cathartic. He's got a way of pulling people in, like the crowd and the audience and the band would become this big cyclical energy. That's what I felt playing with Draco. Like, you never knew what was going to happen at the gigs. It was like he could decide to pull a song out, or maybe he'd extend a section of a song, or just do, it was always like, every gig was different. And he was not afraid of, he was one of the first people I played with that was a real master of the stage. Like, because he'd been on big stages in front of such big crowds so young, I felt like he had a real command of, he could, like, I mean, biggest crowd I ever played to was with him, 140,000 people in Colombia in 2004. We closed a festival called the Rock Al Parque Festival, and it was 140,000. And he walked out on stage to start the show. You're nervous. It's like 140,000 people. Okay, here we go. And he walked out on stage and he started playing a song that wasn't on the set list. We're like, what is he doing? And he's jamming. He's just like started playing in front of 140,000 people. Something we had no idea. It's like, and so we're all like listening, trying to figure out what's going on. He looks at Toss, the drummer. And he goes, "Well, you gonna come in or what?" And it was like, oh, he wants to jam. Okay, like what a way to go on stage. So, like, in other words, a lot of people would be like, we got to come out with a bang, and what are we going to do first? Like, what's something? And he was just like, I'm going to come out and write something in front of all these people, like right now. And he had this way of like, so you're all, you're thrown off your game all of a sudden, but then you're also distracted because you're trying to figure out what he's doing. And then you go, God, he's crazy, he's fearless. That's what he was, sort of fearless. And then you come in and start jamming with him. And so you get comfortable with your sound, because there's all rented gear and everything. It's like, got comfortable with the sound of the amp and the stage sound, and you're kind of being creative. He tells you to take a solo or whatever, and then he's like, and then whatever, we fell out after 2-3 minutes, and then he goes, all right, let's start, and then started the first song. And it was brilliant. It was like, I always remember that experience, because I think he knew we were nervous. He knew that, he was like, well, I'm going to do something to make this, I'm going to throw these guys off their game a little bit and make it okay, in a way, all at the same time. And then, I remember that gig in particular really well. There was people in the front, like, yelling out requests, and he would just start playing them, Some of them we knew, some of them we didn't, so we'd join in. But the gig was the biggest show I've ever played in my life, and it felt like a club show, in a way. And that was because of him, he had the ability to kind of make that happen. So he was really amazing. Yeah, good times playing with that guy. It was cool. I learned a lot with him. Man, during this broadcast, is that what this is? A broadcast. I feel like I'm coming down with the flu. So once I sat down, I was literally like, I wonder if I'm getting the flu. I got a flu shot, so maybe that'll mitigate the whole thing. But it's weird. Could really like not get sick right now. That would be a good thing if I didn't get sick. But just kind of feel like crap a little bit. I know the flu's been brutal this season. They told me, by the way, that the flu shot this year, the guy said that it's only effective against 20%, like 20% of the time, but he said that the flu's so bad that like people are dying from the flu this year more than usual. So he said it seems to be, whatever that strain is of the flu that is actually like killing people, it seems to be completely effective against that. And then we'll, you know, maybe if you do get the flu, it won't be as bad. So I said, all right, give me the flu shot. I was there for like a ophthalmology appointment this week, and they offered to give me a flu shot. I've never had one, so see how that goes. Okay. Somebody's asking about ohmage on cabinets. 8 or 16, what's best? It doesn't really matter. It's whatever your amp. I mean, an 8 ohm cab is always good because most amps will have a. I would suggest an 8 ohm just because it's like, if you want to use different heads or whatever, amps don't always have a 16 ohm out. Yeah. So 8 ohm cab is a good versatile way to go. Have I ever used the Blue Box Impulse Response speaker emulator? Funny you should mention. I just got one, and I think it's terrific. Especially the 412 cabs are stellar, outstanding. Like there's a couple in there really amazing. The one thing that I love is in the Blue Box is he's got a an IR of G12M 55 hertz bass cone speaker, which I love. And I've never tried one in real life, but the Own Hammer IRs, he's made IRs of a 55 hertz bass cone G12M. So this is like a greenback speaker, but with the bass cone. Kind of rare, I think. I've never seen one. But they did exist. They did make them back then in the 70s. And it just, it's like a greenback, but it's not as, it's like the bass drops or something, and it's got this like real full, just perfect kind of frequency response to me. So both the Blue Box version and the Own Hammer IRs of the G12M 55 hertz bass cone speaker I love. And so I love that he put it in that thing. It sounds really good. Yeah, he made a nice piece of gear there. And Daniel's saying, thank you so much for these live chats. And hey, I really enjoy this too, you know, so thank you guys. I'm glad that there's 370 people in line right now. I'm glad people like to do this. And it's fun. I look forward to it. It's fun just talking guitar and questions and stuff like that. I never get tired of it, it seems like. It keeps me going. Jason Hobbs says he's got a Sir Hedgehog that will be there soon. Can't wait. It is a really, really, really great sounding amp, the Hedgehog. It's a unique, you know, cool thing. It's funny. I've told John this, but it's like if I played with maybe Melissa Etheridge or you know, Thornley again, if I was going to do that again, I might be apt to actually use the Hedgehog instead of the PT100. It's because of that American thing, you know. It's just like a little bit more sort of roots, less like rock and more, you know, that kind of, you know what I'm getting at. I think that the Hedgehog is actually a really terrific choice for that. Now Ian uses the PT100 a lot too, though. Like he's told me that, you know, he switches between the Hedgehog and PT100. A lot of people think he's only using the Hedgehog. He's actually uses the PT100 a lot. So he's a fan of that amp as well. We talked about it on the phone like not that long ago, maybe a month or two ago. Thanks for giving props to King's X. Not enough people do. Yeah, King's X, one of the ultimate, you know, I mean, loyal fan base, but it would be great if more people were into them. Darren Katie Lawson says, how do you get a distribution deal if you're looking to? You don't really need it. Just put your music out, get it out there on iTunes, and on, you know, you just use like I did a video a little while ago on DistroKid. Search for that on YouTube. on putting your music out that way, or you can use CD Baby or TuneCore or any of these kinds of, and nobody's buying CDs anymore, so you don't need to distribute things, really. It's like, it's all online now. So, Holly Henderson, nice job. How far out of your comfort zone was that? Totally in my comfort zone. Holly, like, you mean making that record? It was right. I mean, because she's such a great songwriter and really unique. Young, inexperienced, but like creative and interesting and deep, deep, deep ears. Like, so we had a blast. It wasn't like a hard process or anything. Have I ever met Nuno? He's one of my biggest influences. Wondering what type of guy he is. I've met him once, I think. Yeah, I don't really have a read on what he's like as a guy. I'm not sure. He sure is a great guitar player. Since most Sur amps don't have reverb, any chance they'll make a reverb pedal or outboard device? I'm not sure about that, actually, reverb pedal, but there's so many great ones out there. The Bella's got reverb, though, and beautiful reverb at that. And the Kelly, great reverb as well. So they've done a couple. I think, they probably feel like, including reverb with an amp, I mean, the pedals these days, everybody's got their pedals and stuff, So I think originally with the Bella, they thought, well, why put reverb in it? Because everybody's got pedals, like I just said. But then there was requests, because it's kind of in a combo format and stuff. It was like, well, maybe reverb is cool to include with it. And they don't mess around with their reverbs either. They sound terrific. So, let's see. This is a great question. Has hanging out with Tim and the amazing players you've recently interviewed on the show inspired you to change the way you do things? Speaking about Tim Pierce. Yeah, I mean, it's like pinch me, like getting to hang out with Tim and seeing. Tim was a big influence on me. Both, he's a very, very positive guy. I mean, he's kind of like, for as long as I can remember in my life, I've had role models that I really look up to. And when you have that, you sort of don't have to reinvent the wheel so much, and it's not such a mystery. You can just look at what people have done in their life, and it might not be exactly the path you want to take or whatever, but you can see things in successful people that. So I'm speaking more, from a sort of broader perspective here than just how I would do things musically or guitar. But Tim is he's an incredible role model for all of us, I think, as a musician, because he's had the longest career of anybody I can think of. He moved to LA in '79, I think. So, and he's still working hard and happy and playing guitar and improving and coming up with creative stuff every day. So that's pretty amazing. So how do you do that? Well, I just kind of watch him and see what he does. And one of them, from a more sort of targeted, specific thing, one of the amazing things he's done is obviously put his studio together. And he had the foresight to do that in a time when, big sessions and things like that were slowing down in LA, and the budgets aren't what they were. So incredible of him to build an amazing studio at home in an environment where, he's comfortable creating and can work at home. It's almost better, right? Like the music business, sort of the old model, better for him. I mean, like, music business dies away and whatever's going on, everybody's kind of complaining about it. He's like, great, I'm going to make this sort of game this so that I can be at home and work. So he builds this beautiful studio, very comfortable for him, and a work environment that works for him, and he can have producers over and do incredible work at home. So you get to work at home, you don't have to go anywhere, and what a brilliant thing that he did. But so one of the things that he did was he streamlined it so that it's the shortest thing from point A to point B, which is your mind coming up with a guitar part, and then boom, now it's recorded. He's got his system, and it's kind of crazy. Like, I can sit down and record at his place. I have no idea what to do, but for him, he's got his pedals arrayed, and his mic pre's, and his amp switcher over here, and the amplifiers behind him, and he can just instantly, it's like, oh, we need tremolo timed to the track, and maybe with a wash of spring reverb or something like that. It just goes like this, and then he plays the part. So, coming up with a way, and it's going to be different for every guitar player, as different as two pedal boards are from one guitar player to the next, or two different guitar rigs, studio setups you know, like coming up with whatever works for you, and whatever is a good system for you. It's like, it doesn't have to be just like Tim's, but that point A to point B path being as short as possible and easy to create, he's really been inspiring for me, um, in that perspective. So I'm going to sort of recalibrate and redo my studio space pretty soon with a lot of that in mind, because I don't have that level of, sometimes I want to do things and it takes me a long time to plug things in, you know, to get things set up, and he's got that down so that you can work very, very quickly. So that's really inspiring. And musically, yeah, I've learned a lot, like watching him musically. And so like Michael Thompson, or, you know, all you got to do is go hang out with some of these people and just watch, you know, and you learn something, like without even thinking about it. You know. But also the thing that's been the most inspiring for me is to see that they all have a kind of, just like we have right now, because we're here talking about this stuff, they all have the same sort of passion for it. Like that kid, like, you know, excitement. And, oh, still really excited by the guitar and by music, and so it's nice to see that, you know, that in those people, it hasn't gone away, that's for sure. Showman Blues says, oh, well, first, let's see. Frank here says, have you had an experience using any PRS guitars? Yes, I had a McCarty, and I had a custom 24, or no, it was a bolt-on CE 24, I think it was called. So it was the alder one with a maple neck. Nice guitars. They were good guitars. This is a long, long time ago, so I don't really remember. The McCarty in particular was a good, really good. It was the most Les Paul-like PRS, I think. And that was kind of my Les Paul for a while. It was a beautiful guitar, actually. I don't even remember what happened to it. I can't remember where it's. Memory sucks, but I can't remember. I sold it or traded it for something. Nice guitar. Really, really solid instrument. I mean, I got it in '98 or something. Literally like 20 years ago. Whoa. And kept it for a few years, and then traded it away for something. I do regret. Okay, so I had a 54 Les Paul Gold Top, and I traded away that Gold Top for the McCarty and an acoustic guitar at the time. I think I sold the Gold Top, and then with the money bought the McCarty and the acoustic. I sold the Gold Top because it had a repair. There was the truss rod was rattling in the neck, and that bothered me. And I've since told Sir about it and stuff, and he said I could have fixed that easily, you know. And I never should have sold that Gold Top. But I was like, well, I can sell this guitar and then buy a couple other ones that maybe I can use more. So I bought the McCarty and bought a Taylor, I think, that I don't have anymore either. And I should have kept the Les Paul. Dumb. That's my biggest regret, is selling that 54 Gold Top. So stupid, but nonetheless, PRS was a nice guitar. Okay, so Showman Blue says, bought a used 2008 Sir Strat, added Thornbuckers and a middle single coil. Can't wait for it to get here. Oh, cool. So not a question, just kind of a, that's cool. Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a beautiful, great guitar. Question about Thornbuckers from Jonathan. Remember when they came out, you mentioned liking vintage output pickups. Then the Thornbucker Plus came out. What was behind that decision, which you used? So, the original Thornbucker is terrific, and especially I think in Les Paul or Gibson, you know, 24 3/4 scale guitars, all mahogany guitars, and glue-in neck guitars. It's great. I think in the bridge of a 25.5 scale guitar, I had this thing where it was like, I felt like I wanted, particularly in those guitars, a little more push, like in a let's say an alder body Strat with a maple neck. So we experimented with winding a slightly hotter one. Thought, well, maybe we should just put this out too. It's the slightly hotter version. You know, because Sir has SSV and SSV Plus, slightly hotter version. So it's like, why not? You know. So we wound a hotter one too. I mean, we experimented with like I think 9K or 9.1 or something like that, and that was too far because the pickup has an Alnico 4 magnet in it. I feel like you can't wind it to it'll like starts to close down the top end, and that's originally what I loved about the pickup is the clarity. The Alnico 4 has a slightly warmer treble to me, but it's got a real balance of frequencies, and it's still nice and open on the top end. When you wind it beyond a certain point, it's gonna get a little more mid-rangey, is going to start to dominate, and so we got right up to the point where I felt like that wasn't the case, and that was about the 8.7 or 8 or whatever the wind is on the Thornbucker Plus. I was like, okay, well, that's the one. And you know, you can feel it when you're playing through like an amp with just a bit of light drive and you want to play a solo or something, the original version might feel like you just want a little bit more at times in certain guitars, whereas the Plus, it was like that. It was like that point where it's like, there it is. It's just got that little bit of thing. Now, in certain guitar, the lower output, it's all about what you want. In my Les Paul, I've still got the regular Plus, and actually, so this guitar is the gold one I've got right here. This one's got a Plus in the bridge, but my original prototype for these guitars, for my signature model, still has the original Thornbucker in the bridge, and I haven't changed it. I've got one with this pickup, and then I've got the prototype with the regular Thornbucker in it, and they both sound great. So yeah. Let's see. Tips for setting volumes between clean and dirty channel. Yeah. Basically, just listen. And the main tip is actually to play with the band. You need to actually play your clean sound and your dirty sound while the drummer's playing and stuff. That's my main thing for setting the volumes, because you might think you can hear it, and it's like, oh, I can't. The other thing that happens many times is people will set, because their dirty sound is more compressed, right? And many times people play a clean sound, and the initial spike is loud when you hit a chord or a note, and then it falls off quickly. But it can be quite loud. Now, a dirty sound seems like it's louder, but it's actually not. So you'll hit it, and that spike isn't so loud because the whole thing's more compressed. So, long story short, I found a lot of people set their dirty channel to be too quiet in comparison to the clean. Or maybe like you're kicking in a distortion or an overdrive on top of your clean channel. Many people will set the volume or output of the distortion pedal too low, I find. Because think about what happens when you hit a distortion. Generally, it's time to rock. So now the bass player lays into it, the singer lays into it, the drummer lays into it and starts hitting Crash Ride or something like that. And then you hit your overdrive pedal and your sound, all of a sudden, you're the one person in the band that drops out. You need to actually set it so it's louder. So I kind of stagger the sounds of my amps so that the clean sound is at a certain level. The rhythm distortion sound is just slightly louder than my clean. Think like if you're playing clean, you're arpeggiating, playing something mellow. Everybody's playing mellow, right? The drummer's like got the hi-hat closed, and it's a little more subdued at the whole musical thing, generally speaking, unless you're doing some loud, clean thing. But for me, most of the time, if I'm playing clean, it means like everything's a little more mellow. If I'm playing distorted, everything's rocking a little bit harder. So I'm going to set that a little bit louder, and you can always back down the volume on the guitar if it's too much, So that's it. All right. 250K or 500K for one humbucker and one single coil. That's pot values. Sir does a thing where they have a way to wire a 500K so that it turns into 250K when you hit the single coils. So you might want to contact them to ask them about that. Just maybe, or ask a good tech or something. But there's a way that you can do it so you can get the best of both worlds. If you've got a mix of humbuckers and singles in a guitar, you can make the the volume control be 250K, even if it's a 500K and it's through, I don't know, what is it, like resistor or whatever, and change the values. That's the way to go. What type of neck do I use on my signature model? I got one from 2016 that uses an elliptical. Did I switch to a different neck? My guitar is not an elliptical neck, although that's a great neck. I really like the old Sir Guthrie Govan neck, which might be elliptical. I think that's the same thing. I have it on one modern that I have, and it's really terrific. And that's a really nice neck. The one on my guitar is the Even C Standard. I think that's what it's called. Or sorry, Even C Slim. Excuse me, Even C Slim. And I don't find it that slim. So it's can't remember what it is, 880 here or something. I don't remember, but it just feels like a nice Strat C shape, really. So that's what I use, and it's a 10 to 14 radius with stainless steel frets, big ones. Yep. I do like that elliptical neck, though. Really nice. Somebody's asking about the passing of the guitar player from Baby Metal. I heard about that this week, and it was strange. I was in Ochanomizu, which is the guitar shop district of Tokyo, and I met a guy at the ESP store there, and he told me that the guitar player from Baby Metal, and he didn't mention his name, he said was interested in using the PT100, and I said, oh, please have him contact me. I'd love that. You know, baby metal is incredible. It's so fun, crazy. But and so I said, please have him contact me. Give him my email. So I left my email at the store, and I was hoping to hear from him. And then I just heard about that, and I'm wondering, because they've had different guitar players, so I'm wondering if it's the same guitar player that just passed away. I guess he had a fall. It's really too bad. It's a sad story, but I guess he was a really terrific guitarist. But I don't know too much about it beyond that. 380 people online. That's great. I've been going for a while, so I think I'm going to sign off pretty soon, but I'll do about another 10-15 minutes. So any thoughts on Kim Mitchell? I love Kim Mitchell. He's one of my earliest, influences, and, Max Webster. Kim as a guitar player was really interesting. He was kind of like sort of doing that kind of triplet shredding thing before. It came up with really interesting guitar parts. I mean, the guitar part from Go for Soda is amazing. But yeah, I love Kim. Alka-Seltzer! Tang and a 50. It's all over. You've got a hangover. Okay, let's see. Favorite, somebody said it, favorite comedian guitarist, not Canadian. What's my favorite Friedman amp? I'd have to say my favorite amp, well, I would say it's tied probably between the Dirty Shirley and the Smallbox 50. Those are kind of both my speed as far as the tone goes. I really like the Dirty Shirley amp, and it's got a great kind of, Zeppelin-y sort of, it can be high gain, but it's more like great mid-gain kind of amp. And it sounds good clean too when you use especially like the lower gain input, and turn the master way up, and then the other. It sounds really good clean. It's got basically a JTM 45 kind of power section in it, 6L6s, so it sounds really good. And then the small box is a really nice little amp, like that kind of my thing too. The kind of more plexi meets modded plexi thing. I have a BE, and I will probably sell that amp and get, another one of his amps, like the small box or something. I think, because that's probably more my deal these days, I think. Okay. Somebody's saying they watched my video from hi from London. They watched my video of the Dan Electro rotary pedal. Is the ramp between fast and slow speeds adjustable? I don't think so, and it takes quite a while to ramp. I was wondering about that. I don't think it's adjustable, but that pedal does sound really good. It's always got a little hint of grind in it too. That's the other thing. So if you want a real clean rotary sound, it doesn't. It's always got a little bit of overdrive. But really, really good sounding pedal. And that drive pedal is no joke. That Pride of Texas pedal, that's a great sounding overdrive pedal. It does. I said boutique tone for cheap, and somebody's like, what does that even mean on the comments? But the reality is, the pedal sound. My impression of it was like, wow. Like I've tried a lot of expensive overdrive pedals, and this one, honestly, could be one of those pedals that people charge $400 for. And it does sound that good. It's a really, really good sounding drive pedal. If you want that kind of like slightly driven, but is it dirty? Is it clean? Like it does that sound really, really good with the bass and treble controls. And to fatten up like a kind of like an anemic clean sound, and then get like a fat, driven kind of clean thing with the gain down low. Really nice. Especially if you got to play at low volume. Somebody was asking about their deluxe reverb at low volume. Should they use an overdrive? That could be a good pedal, actually, if you wanted to try running your deluxe on like a half or one and then hit it with a pedal like that. It does sound good and feel good and play good. Okay. Somebody's saying not business card, it's paper and therefore moderately insulative. I would agree with that. So for a shim. But I've used them forever. Just business card, strip a business card. It probably does screw up sustain a little bit or something, but that's what I've used in the past. But yeah, a piece of plastic, or you're suggesting using a beer can. I've never heard that, like trimming a beer can. That's Clifton. I never tried that before, but yeah, there's probably something harder is better. You're right, but in my budget, kind of like piecemeal, half-ass guitar tech way of doing things, I would just slice a piece of business card and stick it in there. I'm sure there's better options. It was always about the right thickness too. Was the thing, you know. One strip of business cards seemed to do the trick. Okay. Will I be at the next GitCon? I certainly hope so. I'd love to be there if they want to have me back. I think I'm going. Yeah. I had an awesome time. One of the sort of highlights of my year, actually. It was really fun. And got to meet great people like Leo there and make new friends. And it was terrific. Let's see here. Skip forward in the chat, so sorry if I miss a bunch of comments here, guys, because the chat just went crazy on me. Hate it when that happens. Back up a little bit here to answer some more. Don't go back too far. Somebody's saying, I hope I don't get sick. I know, I hope I don't either. I'm going to take some, take like a emergency or vitamin C or something. You know that feeling when you're like, oh, like all of a sudden, like in 1 minute, you feel like, I think there's some sort of foreign body making its way into my immune system. How was it to play with Chris Cornell? The best times, man, in my life. I really will always miss those experiences, and it's sad that I can't, you know, both see my friend again and then also get to jam with my brothers again. I was thinking about that today, like somebody videos. One of the things is that Twitter and stuff like that, constantly people like remembering Chris and tagging you and things. So it's like every day you might wake up in the morning and look at your phone, and there's constant. So you know you end up looking at things all that, which is a blessing and a curse, right? Because you don't always want to think about these things. But there was a version of "Burden in My Hand" that popped up on my Twitter this morning, and I watched it for a second. And I was like, God damn, man, it was you know, I missed my brothers playing with all those guys, Chris and everybody else included, playing his music, and you know, so fun. What else? Okay, big fan from Finland. 1.5 months every day. I check out your channel and hope that Blue Box will be a review. Yeah, so I got the Blue Box speaker simulator recently. I'm a little slammed leading up to NAMM, and I haven't talked specifically to him about making a video of it, but I probably will. And I'm just trying to both get a record done and kick out a bunch of other videos for people before NAMM. But the thing is awesome. You don't actually need to see the video from me. Just get the thing. It's incredible. If you haven't got it already, it's a really terrific speaker simulator box. Thoughts on mahogany body, mahogany neck S-type guitars? Well, that's basically what mine is, right? Mahogany body, mahogany neck. And I think it's great. It can still sound Stratty if you want it to. I think it's terrific. Stay away from flu shots, said somebody. It's crap. That was always my position. I never got one. I rarely got the flu, but the doc kind of freaked me out when I was in the office. He said, there's a lot of people dying. So I was like, oh. And I didn't get sick from the shot, and it was free. So, he's like, yeah, your arm's going to be sore for a couple of days. It wasn't even really, I was like, give it to me. I'll give it a try. So, let's see here. Is a 112 cab a decent analog for 412? You want to audition a bunch of speakers but can't buy quads. Yeah, totally. I recorded for years using a 112, the little Bogner 112s. The Sura 112 is great too. It's fine. There's a certain thing actually with a 112 where it's almost better in some ways. And this was an interesting thing that when Celestion was doing their impulse responses, I was over there and right before they put them out. A year ago or whatever it was, it was December, a year ago December. I was there and listening to them, and Andy, the guy that really sort of was, spearheading that program for Celestion, he was talking to me about making IRs and how it was kind of an eye-opener for him because he realized he might like the sound in some ways of 112s closed back more than 412s because it's more focused. It's a very, very similar sound, but you're not, and he was kind of reasoning that you don't have all those other speakers with the sound out of the other speakers kind of mixing in with the main one that you're micing, and that can create kind of maybe a bit of phasey stuff or a little bit of like a, it's like not obvious phasing, but it does sound a little more undefined, let's say, than the 112. So the same speaker in a good closeback 112 has a very direct, like it's got basically the same similar tone, maybe not quite as full, but a lot of punch. You know, there's nothing wrong with a good 112 with the speaker that, you know, yeah, sure, just buy one speaker and try it in a 112. And obviously you can't beat it up too much if it's like a 25-watt greenback and you got a 100-watt head. You're going to have to use an attenuator or keep your master really low on the amp, that kind of thing, so that you don't, you know, obliterate your speaker. But I used the 112 cabinet in my little home studio setup in a closet for years and wasn't even that careful with it. I guess I was using a scumbag version, 65-watt greenback M style speaker, but 65-watt version. But I wasn't, you know, I would be kind of careful about how loud I would drive it, but I never hurt the speaker. And I did, you know. Anyway, okay, moving on. Let's see. Let's see. More questions. Somebody says, if I don't have a fever, you don't have the flu. People think a cold is the flu. Sometimes a cold can give you a little fever too, right? A little low grade? No? Maybe? Sort of? I don't know. I'll go take my temperature when we're down here. I just feel it in here too, a little bit. Like get a little, like a little, you know, upper respiratory combination of like all over body feeling of like, perfect. Okay. Gotta go soon, but will I be demoing anything at NAMM? That's Jennifer asking that personally. I kind of shied away this year from doing I hate the booth demo thing, to be honest. It's too damn loud. You can't hear. It's just like a, you know, NAMM. I love NAMM. I love going. It's really fun, but I like to go and just look at stuff and talk to people. The whole like, you know, and everybody, and it's like, you know, it's just like, for me, it's a sonic onslaught. That it's not musical to me to play there. I love being there, but it's kind of chaos and talking to people and all that. That's what I like, you know. Doing something musical there is like, it's like really, it's just like my intuitive musical sense says like, what are you doing? Like, how do you, you know, when I get at a booth there and try and, you know. So long story short, no, but I do love playing there at gigs like I did with Stevens and stuff, or the thing that we did, you know, when I play with Thornley or my own thing at Sir, and, you know, play some of my own songs. That's cool, you know, if it's like a, you know, you're going to do a set, it's going to be loud and an appropriate thing. It's just the playing in the booth thing. I don't know, man. It's not my bag. So that's just kind of how I feel about it. Let's see what else. So, am I familiar with the System 3 trims on the contemporary Strats from the mid-'80s? Better than the Floyd. I think I know the one you mean. Is it it's the locking one without the fine tuners, right? Sir was telling me he didn't like that bridge. Said there was a lot of problems with it. I don't think the best locking trim has been made yet. I don't think that's happened. So I think we still have yet to see a terrific bridge going forward that combines a lot of elements like vintage tone, you know, vintage Strat sort of feel and bar and all that kind of stuff, but with locking saddles. Okay. Somebody has a true bypass loop or switcher getting volume drop if they don't turn on the last pedal in the chain. You've got a buffer issue, my friend. Buffer at the beginning and buffer at the end is always helpful, but if you put a buffer after your switcher, what's happening is when you turn on the last loop in your switcher, it's buffering. That's why you're getting the volume bumping up then. So you need to address putting a buffer after your switcher is what I would say at the end of the chain. Something's going on with, you know, it's not proper buffering. So buffer. I use a buffer at the beginning and a buffer at the end. That's how I do it. okay. What else? Have I tried Victory Amps? No, but Victory Amps is the company that used to do Cornford, right? I believe. I heard the Richie Kotzen one sounds good. Somebody told me that he's got one that's very simple, like a 2 or 3 knob kind of situation. I heard it's a good sound. I think I partied with that guy one night, the Victory Amp guy, and Guthrie Govan, and at the Fox and Hound in Studio City, and we went there. Guthrie was a fan of a girl I used to be in a band with named Summer Rose, who's a great singer and now lives in Nashville. But and so it was weird to meet Guthrie because he's this guy that, you know, so here he is from England and stuff. I've never, you know, how would we have this connection? But he somehow knew about Summer, and Summer would do like play acoustic guitar and sing like in clubs around LA and stuff. And he was a huge fan of hers, and so anyway, we bonded on that, and we met one night there. And I was pretty hungover, but Guthrie was hammered. I remember that. That guy can drink, drinking like, you know, it's an English pub, and, you know, that was just his deal. He was in his like element and stuff, and both him and the Cornford guy were seriously sauced, and I probably was too. And we had a really fun time. I remember it was cool. It was maybe like 3-4 years ago, something like that. He was here for NAMM, I think. Guthrie's a great guy. If nobody's ever met him, I really like him. He's a sweet dude. Okay, moving on. Somebody ended up ordering the Dan Electro Big Spender after watching my demo. That's cool. It's a great sounding rotary pedal for cheap. You know, if you need that Leslie thing, it's pretty sweet. I was impressed. They did a nice job on those pedals. Expensive doesn't always mean better. You know? Seems like the Lucky Strike Live in LA has consistent great jam sessions with well-known players. If you lived in LA, they'd be there weekly. Yeah, they do. Recently, so it used to be the Ultimate Jam Night was held there. Then it moved to the Whiskey. That became on Wednesday nights Soundcheck Live, and now Soundcheck Live has moved to Santa Ana somewhere. So, so I'm not sure what's going on at Lucky Strike now as far as a jam night. I don't know if there is one anymore, but. Lucky Strike is a bowling alley in Hollywood that has a venue in it. Kind of a House of Blues style venue, really nice, like a nice big club that is a bowling place, but also has great PA and live stage. And there's a whole, we did a set last December there of Chris Cornell music, me and some friends. And so that's online if you guys want to see it. Just Google like Lucky Strike, Pete Thorn, it'll pop up, and you can see what Lucky Strike looks like. But it's a nice club. I mean, you can fit like, you can easily fit like 500 people in the live area there, yeah, it's cool. Right at Hollywood and Highland. Let's see. Okay, a couple more questions, and I'm gonna jet and get some work done. Been working on my record. I worked on a tune yesterday. I want to get over to the studio and continue because I'm making good progress. I'm really digging it. It's not gonna be out by NAMM, but the single's coming out the day of NAMM. And then the record's going to follow shortly after. So at least I've got a video and a single coming out in a couple weeks. And then I'm busting my ass to get the rest of it done. But the good news is I'm super stoked and really, really, really happy with the way that it's turning out. So if you like Guitar Nerd, this one's better. Let's see. When I do store demos, do I use the full rig or a laptop? If so, what software? You mean when I do like a clinic in a store? I'm not really sure what you mean. This is from Travis. When I was doing clinics recently, I was using my PT100, but using it into a reactive load, and then into studio monitors and also a PA system, so everybody could hear. That was kind of the idea. Was I wanted to show people you could use a big amp but record with it in like a home setting, basically. So I was trying to kind of recreate a home studio setup, you know, in a music store environment, basically. So that's how I did it. Is that a Godin hanging on the wall? Yes, it's a Godin nylon string, the multi-act, I think it's called, nylon string. Really terrific nylon strings, especially for live stage kind of stuff. Although I played it on the record, I actually played it on my new record. I had a bit of an IR of an acoustic, you know, like acoustic impulse response to the pickup sound of it, and I got a really credible nylon string sound, I think. So really, really good guitars, though. They just sound great in a PA, and they don't feed back. Godin's good stuff. My Canadian brethren. Let's see. If I could only have one Marshall amp, which one would it be? Well, I kind of have a great 50 watt 71 small box, or that's not a small box, the big size one. But I just got that amp recently. That's kind of the amp, you know, for me, like 68 through 73, somewhere in there. You know, point to point, plexi, really metal panel. That's my favorite Marshall. Let's see here. What else? What else? What else? Trying to find another question here. Just moving through all the comments. Did I get to use the Helix live? Yes, I've used it live, and it works great. I've used it both live with the Kemper, and then also I used it live with the PT100. Actually, that Cornell gig, it was not a Chris Cornell gig, but it was my friend Dave singing, and we got together and did a set of Chris's music. This was last December, and it's at the, if you look on YouTube, Lucky Strike, Pete Thorn, you know, Cornell, something like that, it'll pop up, and you can see me use the PT100 amp with the Helix. That's what I was using for all the effects, and you can hear me using it for, like we did, like Blow Up the Outside World, and I had a bunch of tremolo and reverb and stuff like that. That's all the Helix, and the Helix was MIDI switching the PT as well. It's great. So it's good video representation, and it sounds pretty good, the tone on the video, if you want to hear me using it with an amp. Let's see. 54 Gold Top. Yeah, I had one. I did. I bought it for $2 grand. Yep, and I sold it. What a moron. Can't believe I sold it. It had a headstock repair, but it was done right. And the top had been refinned, but it looked original. It was a gold top, and just that somebody had refinned the top, but it was an old refin, so it was already checking and getting green around the arm again and stuff. So it was a player. I think it had been refretted too. You know, player 54, really. But that guitar would still be like, I don't know, $12,000 now or something, or more maybe, you know, even with the headstock break and all that stuff. It was a great player 54 Les Paul. And I sold it. Yeah. What is my setting of preference on a 1959 Marshall on a super lead? Well, I like to crank the mids, number one. The presence, depending on what you're doing, can anywhere between 4 and 8, I would say. Bass, usually down around 4 or 5. Treble, anywhere from like 5 till 7 or 8. And then, you know, high input and the volume anywhere between 5 or 6 and 10. So those are some of the settings I use. Let's see here. What else we got? Difference between Thornbuckers and PAFs. Well, they're sort of one and the same, really. It's really what they're based on. It's that sound. Oh man, somebody says they sold a super clean 58 335 20 years ago. That's Chris. Still beating myself over it to the day. I feel your pain. I do. Yeah. My suggestion is if anybody out there has vintage guitars and there's some days where you're like, man, I love the guitar, but I should sell it. Maybe I can buy a few other things with the money. Don't do it. Keep the vintage guitar. Unless you absolutely have to. I mean, I even absolutely had to. It was like I really needed a good guitar when I sold that 54 with a pickup in it. Because I was getting gigs where I was playing on television all of a sudden, starting to play with Adam Cohen, and he was getting, you know, live TV gigs, and I didn't have a good acoustic that had a pickup in it, so I had to go do these gigs, and it was like, but money was still tight, and it was like, I gotta get some money so that I can buy, so I bought that Taylor, and it was a great guitar, and I needed it, and I still regret, you know, like, wasn't there some other way I could have come up with the money for that Taylor? When will the PT50 be released? Well, so, you know, I'm just going to say it on here. Basically, we've got amps designed, new amps, and, you know, John's just gets busy. He's got a lot going on, and, you know, it's like there's priorities and stuff like that. So there's amps that are really, really, really far along, and there's good stuff coming, you know, but it's not going to be NAMM, so not for the amp. But hopefully, you know, John always says right after. I don't necessarily believe him. But it's just, I don't blame him either because he's got a ton going on. He's a busy guy. But there's some great stuff coming for both a 50 and a smaller version. So I'll say that. A few years ago, he designed a lower output power section and coupled it with a PT Channel 2. So he kind of did great, dirty, rhythm sound. And he did it's like about I don't know, like somewhere in the 15 to 20 watt range, probably, power amp. And he built it into a little prototype head, and it's smoking. Like, it just sounded killer. And basically like my amp, but in this great little thing. And it was like, okay, that's amazing. We have to do that. So that's the basis for a smaller one. And we're including a bunch of really cool features and stuff like that, and making it obviously it's going to have clean channel and all that good stuff. And, some recording features and things like that. So that's coming, because that's what people want. They want smaller, lighter, killer tone, but also, be able to use it at low volume or maybe no volume, that kind of stuff. It's all coming very soon, very soon. I can't promise that it's very soon, but I hope so. Within the next 6 months, I think, I would say. Yeah. Okay, I gotta go soon. What am I doing? It's 12:30. This is a long one. I think this is a 2-hour episode of Sunday Live. Not that I don't love you all, I do, but time to go to work, get some music done. Okay, question about pedal power supplies. I have a middle-sized pedal board, 7 pedals like the DD500 Strymon Flint. You'd like a good pedal power, but can't decide between a Strymon Zuma and Friedman Power Grid. I think they're both good. Those are two that I would say are excellent. So I don't know if one's better than the other or not. The Zuma seems really great, and the Friedmans are working good for me. So you're going to be okay either way, as long as they'll both power all your stuff. I'm not sure that they will. It's a lot of pedals. You've got their 7. Should be okay, I think, but that's kind of right at the limit, I think. Okay. Okay, guys. 2 more questions, I'm going to split. 2 more questions, and I'm out. Somebody says they've never been disappointed by Jeff Beck live show. Me neither, man. Never. And Satriani shows are almost always a waste. He's typically buried by the percussion. I don't agree with that. I've seen Joe live a couple times. I'm a Joe fan. I think Joe's awesome. And I'm an unabashed Satriani fan. As a matter of fact, my new single is largely influenced, I would say, by both like the boogie, Satch boogie, and the kind of Hot for Teacher. I thought nobody's doing songs like that anymore. It's swing, like kind of rock and roll, like ballistic, swing thing. And I loved in Satch Boogie how it's basically a blues boogie song, but then he goes totally left in the middle and does the tapping thing, and it's not blues at all anymore. Now it sounds like some futuristic thing, and then he brings it back around and ties it back in. And that was I was like, I want to do a song like that. Boogie blues situation, but then goes modal or something in the middle and goes left and is not blues anymore. And so that was kind of what I tried to do. Anyway, but Joe live, I've seen him a few times. He's great, man. I mean, he's sold 10 million albums playing instrumental guitar. It's incredible. I think he's one of the most successful and pretty incredible. Okay. Have I ever performed at Red Rocks? Yes, I did Red Rocks once, which was ever since I saw that YouTube video from the early 80s where it's raining and they're at Red Rocks. I was like, oh my God, what is that place? It looks amazing. And so I got to play there. I did a tour with Jewel. We were opening for, who was it? Rob Thomas in 2006, right before I got the Cornell gig. I did a tour with her in the summer, and that was my Red Rocks gig. But great memories of that place. I bought a book that I have over here, actually, from, yeah, you see it sitting right over there, the Red Rocks, like, all about the history of the venue and stuff like that. So it's an amazing, beautiful venue. Ever worked with Ted Leonard from Spock's Beard? No, but oh God, I'm forgetting his name now. The drummer, he's an amazing drummer that did Spock's Beard. I knew that guy back in the '90s. Now I can't even remember his name because I'm getting old. But he was an amazing drummer. He worked with Kevin Gilbert a lot, and he's a terrific drummer. Okay. We've already got all the way to the end of the chat here, and I'm going to answer one more question, then I'm going to split, which is, Phil says, which guitar do you find most stable, as in not needing too many truss rod adjustments when touring? I would say something with a maple neck is going to be your most stable guitar, as far as, you know, and there's sort of like debate about the roasted thing or not roasted, but maybe that can help, but something with maple. Sir probably has a good perspective on that. I find a good thick kind of maple neck. You know, if the guitar's built right, they're going to move less than others. Mahogany tends to. I have to adjust on my signature Sir. It's mahogany neck, and I have to adjust the neck. When it's fairly, you know, they move. It's mahogany. It's more porous, and that's my. I'm no expert, but that's my thinking and my experience is like Les Pauls, 335s. You know, my guitar is no different. It's going to require some adjustment every now and then if you want that mahogany neck. But maple is just, I mean, it's more, you know, it's a little bit denser and all that good stuff. So Nick DiVigilio, that's his name. That's right. He's a great drummer. Thank you for reminding me. I was going to say Nick Vincent, but that's another great LA drummer. I was like, no, that's not him. It's another guy. Nick DiVigilio. Yeah, terrific drummer. Doc says he doesn't dispute Satch's skill. His comment is with regard to not being able to hear him in live shows. Yeah, I haven't had that experience. It's been a while that, I mean, I'm not disputing your experience either. It could be, you know, maybe you had a crappy sound guy or something too. But I saw him at the House of Blues in LA when it was still here. That was a number of years ago now, probably 4 years ago or something. Was the last time I saw him, but he sounded great. It was a benefit concert for Cliff, I believe, from, don't quote me on this, but the Destroy All Guitars guy, I believe it's Steve Vai and Joe and a bunch of other guitar players. And Joe's set actually sounded, well, Steve Vai sounded amazing too, but Joe sounded great. He came out and killed it and kind of reminded me like, oh yeah, that's why he is who he is and why he's gotten where he is, because he had great songs and it was like really entertaining, like as far as, you know, I love that he plays songs. That's the main thing that I love about, you know, that's why he's got hits. Because he comes out and plays songs with melodies and stuff, and then when he knows how to kind of ride that. Steve's great that way too. I mean, for an instrumental show, an instrumental guitar show, it can get boring kind of fast. I find I get bored of watching guitar players a lot. But Beck always holds my, you know, anybody that plays melody, and with dynamics and kind of can ride that, you know, wave of bring you up, bring you down, know when to lay out, simple. It's like it's a powerful thing. Somebody says, okay, somebody says, what about the death of Fast Eddie Clarke? I love Motorhead, man. I mean, and it's, you know, it's sad. All the Motorhead guys are gone now. That's it. We're all getting older. You know, I always remember Ace of Spades video and stuff growing up and seeing that it was badass and just dirty rock and roll. It's cool stuff. Motorhead was cool. Somebody's asking about my 1-watt Marshall. Just to answer a couple more quick. 1-watt Marshall head, is it a combo or a head? It's a little head that I bought, you know, used off the gear page, off a guy. Recommend a cabinet. I have a little, see it sitting over there. It's a little Marshall from the 80s that I put a new greenback in, 10-inch greenback. I just found that cabinet for $75. Threw the greenback in. It sounds awesome. It's a good little setup. Do I ever get any songs that I never get bored of playing? I don't really get bored of playing songs. I mean, like if I'm on tour or whatever, and it's like if it's a hit. I mean, I'm not an artist that's had a big hit. That would be an interesting question for somebody like, you know, Don Henley or something. You know, they got to play Desperado every night because you just kind of have to. But I doubt. I don't know. When it's so good, it's like there's got to be an ego element where it's like. Everybody out there singing every word. I guess I should sing this song one more time. You know, it's like, it's, you know, good stuff. How many amps do I own? I don't know. Maybe 15 or 20, something like that. Probably 20. Too many. Let's see here. What about the Friedman B50 Deluxe? I haven't tried it. I assume it sounds, you know, like a very versatile BE. Have I tried the new Fenders with rosewood neck? No, have not. And I think that's it, guys. I'm gonna go. Favorite Satch album? Probably, you know, well, actually, kind of the Extremist, I have to say. I was going to say the Surfer with the Alien, but I think the Extremist, because just sonically, it's like with Andy Johns, it sounds amazing. What a great sounding record. It's just a great rock and roll record. Killer sound. All right. Let's see here. Do I ever lose inspiration? Yeah, I do. We'll take this as the last question. I do. I lose inspiration, and sometimes it's great to take a week off from playing guitar, you know, and then I come back and like I find sometimes like if you take 2 days off, you come back and like, oh god, my hands, I suck. Sometimes you take like a week off or 10 days off, and then you come back and it's like I feel like I can play better, even though I haven't picked up the guitar because I'm excited to play again and it feels good. It's good to be back, and maybe I'm more tuned into after a long time away, you pick it up and you just sort of like it's fresh and you're playing music as opposed to falling into patterns or things like that. You know, it's like it's exciting when you pick it up again, and there's something about that. So maybe just take a break, and, you know, you know, just give it a rest if you're not feeling that. It's okay to do that once in a while. Go do other things. Balance. All right, you guys. Thanks once again for hanging out with me on Sunday morning. And I'll see you next week. I'm going to make some more videos for stuff this week. Work more towards getting my record done. Should be another Line 6. If you guys didn't see the Line 6 Tone Life series, a video came out this week. It's on the Line 6 YouTube. It's posted up on my Facebook and stuff like that. Please check it out. They made these really nice series of 3 videos that are, there's a little bit about gear in them about Line 6, but really they're kind of more like a profile of artists, and they're going to do them with other guitar players, but I was really honored to be the first one that they asked to do it. So the first one's up now, and there's going to be 2 more coming out, one this week, and then one the week of NAMM, and then also the first day that NAMM starts, the Thursday of that week, the 25th, I believe is the date. That's going to be the day that on my channel, sort of my first real full-fledged music video will come out, and that's for my single from my new album, which album won't be out, but the single's coming out that day, so you'll be able to check it out. They made a really beautiful video, pro shot, and edited it and stuff, so I'm really proud of it. Hope you guys will dig it, so you'll check it out. Okay, take it easy. Have a good rest of your day. See you guys.